This week on Waxing the Porpoise, G-Baby and the usual suspect Steve once again dive deep into the murky waters of cinema and surface with insights sharper than a dorsal fin as we cover The Spanish Prisoner from 1997, a rather interesting PG entry in David Mamet's filmography that unfolds like a meticulously orchestrated symphony that'll keep you guessing. But does it hit all the right notes? Join us as we discuss comedy gold by way of Ye, Steve enlightening G-Baby on the dentist system and how it dovetails into this picture, the prospect of getting shanghaied in a foreign country, and alliteration notwithstanding, the downright diabolically discordant and frankly dogshit dialogue of this film. The porpoises, midnight companions and keen observers, once again find themselves plunged into the depths of the silver screen. With the finesse of skilled mariners, they attempt to glide through the intricate currents of this high-stakes confidence game, a mesmerizing spectacle that unfolds like an underwater chess match, where every move ripples with strategic intent and the waves of suspense lap at the shores of mystery. Any Bone Thugs fans out there? On Crossroads, is it And I Miss My Uncle Charles Jones or Charles Y'all?
Yeah, man, I miss my Uncle Charles, y'all.
Let's wax this buffaloed porpoise.
Chase, don't do that.
You see, we working on his brow chakra. We're just in back of the crown chakra.
God, I haven't seen that in forever.
It's when they get Chunk and they're like spill it, tell us everything, but they obviously they only want to know about like where the fucking the treasure is and shit. And he's like everything. He's like everything. And then he starts from like every childhood sin from like age 4 up. I was at the balcony in the movie theater and I started throwing up on everyone. When I was 7, I pushed my sister down the stairs and blamed it on the dog.
Should revisit that one.
And then one of the other henchmen, people was like, I'm starting to like this kid. Oh boy. You're gonna have to save me on this movie a little bit. I kind of browned out midway through and I watched it 1.5 times. There's only one point during this movie where I kind of like didn't give a fuck.
Spaced on the second toast.
Yeah, really spaced hard on the second toasts.
Usually go 1.5 toasts. Spaced on the second toast. Man, I was rewatching the Michael Richards clip where he freaks out at that comedy club.
Oh boy.
Man, it just gets worse every time you watch it.
I've only heard it maybe once or twice, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty brutal.
Well, he freaks out, melts down, but then he, like at the very end, he almost tries to turn it into a bit, like, yeah, there's these words that are still, and then like 2 seconds later, he's like,
hasn't.
yeah, he's almost trying to turn it into like a George Carlin, like, there's just these words. And then I think it sets in like, this is not going to work. I'm just going to walk off the stage. And he just leaves right after that. But
yeah, that's pretty. He never really came back from that. That's like the original get canceled kind of thing.
Certainly
but
not.
I feel like that's pretty justified though. Like,
yeah, that's like the nuclear example.
I was gonna just say, I can't front like I'm a huge Carlin fan. There was a couple specials that I had on CD back in the days where, like mid 90s to early 2000s, I had a few comedy CDs that were in a solid rotation, and one of them was one of Carlin's later.
I don't think I know any of his shit, really.
Dude,
just by like reputation.
Yeah, there's like his fame precedes him. he's got a lot of stuff that really, especially the early days. I've flashed back to some of his early stuff, and it's like razor sharp. It's like, but he kept that same intensity and like analytical ability to break things down with the comedy all the way till he died, I think.
Yeah.
Like, so like one of his later specials, I think it's called It's Bad For You, or that was one of his big bits. Dude, that one, it's so much of the stuff he talks about is like so prescient for like today.
Yeah.
But his early shit, yeah, he's on fucking fire when he's got hair and he's not all gray. Like,
Yeah.
but I like how he can really stitch together a fucking soliloquy really well. But he has a really good in that It's Bad For You. I think this is from like 07 maybe a little bit earlier. But he has a whole bit on euphemisms that's fucking just gold. Like he just
That sounds right up your alley.
Oh yeah. Well, he breaks it down like perfectly on like he could teach a college course, but then he spins it in between with his comedy style that just lines up perfect. But
You know, a lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous.
well, I'm going to start us off with a quick clip. Actually, 2 or 3, but they're really fast. I subscribe to this Kanye page, and it's just like 2-second like blurbs of him just being wild as shit.
Is one of them the clip where he's like, and I'm not going to say it.
No, I think that's too hard. Yeah, that one's like, too hard for the fucking radio, I think.
So funny, though.
It is. I love how his pause isn't even a half a second.
Yeah.
He's like, it was a Jewish doctor.
Yeah. Hey, I've been made an honorable member of the tribe, so I'll allow it if you need some permission.
It is a fucking funny clip, man.
I'm not gonna do what everybody thinks I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
And just flip out, man.
All right. Here's the Kanye, one of the latest Kanye funnies.
Drove me to a point of exhaustion, which was misdiagnosed by I'm not going to say what race, what people, doctor, and what hospital, and what media it went to. We know I can't say that. It was a Jewish doctor.
God. The lightning quickness, like anything else aside, it could have been anything. I'm not going to talk about whatever it is, just how quickly he'd fucking just, yeah, I watched that a couple times.
The speed of light, if you had a stopwatch on it.
They motherfucking made the Twix double the size trying to make us fat.
What was he wearing? Wow, that was a very visually interesting clip.
All right, last one. This one really got me.
I don't want to hang out with him.
Give the neighbor's kid a chance. He's harmless.
What's up, Dylan?
Did you know that Amelia Earhart got eaten by coconut crabs?
You know, I think I did read that, actually. That's crazy to think about, because it's like, did she die when she crashed? How long was she stranded on that island?
You think they ate her pussy?
What the fuck, Dylan?
Yeah, my old lady just showed me that one yesterday, I think.
Awesome.
Maybe you sent it to her, or...
I think I did, in hopes that she would make you watch it too.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that one's so good, because it's like, dude, I have met people exactly like that. That was like dead nuts.
Yeah, like your mom's friend's kid who's a psycho.
All right. We are on episode 84 now, talking about The Spanish Prisoner from 1997. This is one that I have never seen also, so this is a blind watch for both Steve and I. As usual, you have myself, Jim G. Baby.
Yeah, man, I miss my Uncle Charles, y'all.
And of course, the usual suspect, Steve.
200 degrees in sunlight, minus 200 in the shade, canyons of razor-sharp rock, unpredictable gravitational conditions, unexpected eruptions, things like that.
Okay, so the scariest environment imaginable. Thanks. That's all you gotta say. Scariest environment imaginable.
How's it going, man?
White House.
You've seen Armageddon, though.
Oh, yeah.
We can get that. Okay.
Yeah.
We can
and they don't want to pay taxes again, ever.
Man, that is I should get that Michael Clark Duncan. That'd be an excellent bump.
I saw that one
Just
in theaters. I remember it fondly.
Nice. Yep. That's one of the ones I watched a couple times, I think, in the theaters. That was a return watch for sure.
So that was like my prime movie watching couple of years, because what was that, probably somewhere between 95 and 98, right?
Yeah, I think it was closer. It's one of those ones I always mix up between 97 and 99, but it
Okay.
easily could have been 98. But yeah, 97 to 99, there were some really prime time blockbusters in there. Men in Black.
Yeah, well, because before that I wasn't aware enough to really care, and then after that I just didn't care. So The Spanish Prisoner, when I saw it was in 97, that was my cinematic renaissance period. So I was excited because I'm sure I just assumed it was going to be great.
Yeah. I have thoughts about this one, but what'd you think?
I did like it. I could see why it's not widely known as being really good. I think it gets too many points for the director and being a little like artsy fartsy and navel gazy and fart sniffing. I will say the first 20 or 30 minutes, I was not having a good time.
Me too.
I thought
was
the dialogue,
just like that meme.
Yeah, I was totally for sure not having a good time the first 20 or 30 minutes. And so I just thought, like, okay, well, I'll just hate watch the next hour and a half and enjoy it that way. And it was the fucking dialogue, dude. It's not only what the script was, but it reminded me of like a really bad school play where like one person would speak and then the other person would have like a perfect retort but too quickly, and it didn't sound like normal people speaking.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't organic, didn't feel realistic. It was like NPCs interacting with one another.
Yeah, it was too polished, not realistic, and just too quick. And the way people were talking just felt like I was watching a play. And there was a point about halfway through where it stopped bugging me, either because I sort of like calibrated to it and I was used to it, or they backed off a little bit. I feel like the last half of the movie wasn't quite as schlocky.
Yeah.
But I liked it overall. I was pleasantly surprised by the second half. I'm a sucker for a good con movie. There are definitely points that I'm going to shit on about it, but yeah, I mean, a good con movie. It kind of reminded me a little bit of Matchstick Men, which we had covered in a prior episode. Or, I mean, I feel like the holy grail of con movies is Usual Suspects for me. Even though it's not really a con movie, it's like a good twist, sort of convoluted story. But yeah, so what did you think about this one? Because this was also your first watch.
Yeah, and I don't know. I have this thing where like sometimes I'll see or I'll hear something that I missed when it came out like years later, and then I hear that it's good, or especially if it's been like 10 or 20 years and it's like, oh, it's really good, and if it's got like a 7 on IMDb or above, I'm usually like, I can usually take it to the bank, like I think I'm gonna like this one, you know. And this is just one of those ones I kind of had in my back pocket that I hadn't seen, and I was just like, I think I'm gonna, like a 90% chance I'm gonna like this one, so I'm definitely gonna watch it one day, and just didn't for whatever reason. One of the things that turned me off was that it was PG and it was a David Mamet film, because he's known for his harsh language, you know. So that was kind of off putting. I was like, oh, is this gonna be some cheese dickin' ass fucking PG movie? But that really didn't play into it at all. But I don't know. I'm still kind of wrestling with this one. Like, I'm definitely of two minds about it. Almost beat for beat, I hated the first 20, 30 minutes. I was like, yeah, this is bullshit. Like community college, like drama nerd, fucking theater for like 5 people in the crowd.
Yeah.
I don't like anyone in this movie except for Ricky Jay, who plays George, and he's just like he's like a token like stock like spews adages and like cryptic sayings. Every interaction he has with someone is like a fucking pull it out of like Thoreau or like a Shakespeare line or something.
Yeah. That
Some
was
of
my
them are pretty good.
least favorite guy for me of all time.
Really?
Every time he opened his mouth, I was like, what are you, like a 17th century like clairvoyant? Like, so why are you talking like this, you fucking weirdo?
I see. I thought you would like him the most because he's like in like the gambling, like the card world. He's Ricky Jay. I've tried to tell you about him a couple times in the past, but he's like a super famous magician, card sharp.
Oh, really?
Like he's also like he's like a learned scholar, like all that shit. I think David Mamet put him in here because he had a movie from '87 called House of Cards, I think, or House of Games, where poker plays predominantly, and he has a role in that as well. But he's just like that. Like if you see him in interviews too, he kind of talks in these cryptic phrases and sayings and stuff. I don't know. I find it endearing.
Now I really hate him.
Yeah. I can see that definitely rubbing someone raw, but
nobody talks like that in real life.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as overkill as his character in this movie, but he's equipped with like a lot of sayings, but a lot of that is like his patter, the magician's patter that he uses when he's talking and setting up these like all this shit, you know.
I could see that.
So that's part of his showmanship, like that quality of him. Like if you go on YouTube and there's a bunch of different ones. Some of the shit he can do with cards is fucking bananas, like David Blaine level. Like how the fuck are you doing that? But also like the like the pageantry and like how he like talks with the crowd, his crowd work, and like the shit that like his part of his presentation that he has prepared and he's speaking is fucking like it's just really well done. Like I couldn't do that in a fucking million years. Like he makes it seem like effortless, you know.
Shakespeare mixed with David Blaine or something.
Yeah. But I like him a lot just outside of this movie too, but yeah, I couldn't latch on to anyone, but kind of like with you as well, like maybe midway through the second half, I got into some of the twists and turns and the double crossings, and like this guy just keeps digging a fucking deeper hole.
Yeah.
But then there's like little points where I was able to pick out like plot holes and like,
oh sure,
why would you do that, man? Like, so I don't know. I'm pretty lukewarm on it. I'm gonna come across the bow and say I didn't like this movie. And
okay,
I won't watch it ever again.
I think by the end of it, I think I can warm you up a little bit because I'm a cynical asshole, and I definitely went into this after the first quarter like, this sucks ass. I don't like it, but
we'll see. I think the one thing that I will not sway me is the character of Susan.
Yeah.
I fucking couldn't stand, and I didn't understand why they went that heavy-handed with her and her character. I was like, this is dumb. I think it's a Rob Zombie, Sherry Moon Zombie kind of thing, because that's David Mamet's wife.
Yeah.
And they've been married since like 91, and she's been in like everything he does, like whatever.
Yeah, her character, like her acting was really bad. Her dialogue was some of the worst.
Yeah.
Like we had previously discussed. She also has this weird quality that the main guy, Joe Ross, has, where they both look so much like another person that I can't put my finger on that it drove me nuts the entire time. And then afterwards, I looked them both up. I didn't recognize a single thing from either one of their IMDb pages, but
yeah, they're pretty obscure actors.
Her performance was pretty bad. I thought it was obvious from early on that she was part of the con,
Mm-hmm.
and I was kind of hoping for like one more misdirect at the end, like, oh no, we made it seem so obvious that she was in on it to throw you off that now she's actually going to help him, and she's an ally.
Yeah.
But then when they're like, oh yeah, no, she's a bad person, it's like, oh fuck. I mean, yeah, duh. Obviously, she kept saying over and over, like, I'm new, I'm very new, like I've only been here, I'm new.
Yeah, that was so fucking cloying and like saccharine. I was just like, like shuddered.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we get it, man. And I mean, she holds the bit all the way to the end, even when she's getting hauled into like that police van, like paddy whacking thing.
Yeah.
And she's like kind of playful. She's like, oh, well, I'll see you around. Or something. She says something like that, and it's like,
Aren't you gonna help me? And then
Yeah.
He had like some bullshit line like, enjoy your home or something like,
Yeah.
oh god, way to go out with a dud.
And she has like a smirk, like a, not the attitude of somebody who has to be going away for at least 10, 15, 20 years. I would think, but either way, I think before we go any further, I found a synopsis online that I'm just going to fucking plagiarize from filmscouts.com just to get our arms around this, because I know we're going to go in a bunch of different directions probably, and I don't want to belabor anything. But the Spanish Prisoner, this is from David Mamet, who I'm not really familiar with. I know the name. There's a couple things I looked at in his filmography that I've seen, but this is definitely like a blind spot for my movie buffdom. So the Spanish Prisoner centers on an elaborate confidence game, and its labyrinthine plot is laden with twists and reversals, reminiscent of The Usual Suspects, It Wishes, and Hitchcock's The Man Who Knew Too Much, North by Northwest. The Spanish Prisoner is a film that will keep audiences guessing till the end. So we have Joe Ross, played by Campbell Scott. He invents this quote unquote the process, along with his friend and legal counsel, played by Ricky Jay. The process, it's a top secret formula that his boss, Mr. Klein, played by Ben Gazzara, is already fucking nutting his pants, seeing dollar signs. So he flies Joe down to some secluded Caribbean island for a hush-hush meeting with big stockholders. And Klein only gives Joe vague promises about Joe getting cut in on some of the profits. Joe's a very trusting guy. He's starting to think he might be getting shut out of the biggest thing that's ever happened to him. By chance, taking a walk on the beach while he's mulling things over, he happens to encounter Jimmy Dell, played against type by Steve Martin, a mysterious jet-setting businessman, and they make plans to meet in New York. When back in the city, Joe confides his troubles to Jimmy. Jimmy is there to help. As Joe's relationship with the company deteriorates, so does Joe's faith in the people around him. His colleague and confidant, George, again played by Ricky Jay, his boss, Mr. Klein, Jimmy, and even Susan, played by Rebecca Pidgeon, a secretary with a none too subtle crush on him. Are these people his friends, as they claim, or is there something darker underneath? As they all pledge to stand by him, Joe finds himself not knowing who to trust or where to turn, trapped in a world which nothing and no one are what they seem. So, yeah, it's really convoluted. It's up there with, like, it's trying to do like those movies that were mentioned, like The Man Who Knew Too Much by Hitchcock, The Usual Suspects. I think it falls really short of that, but that's the kind of thing that you're in for with this one.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that really hurts it is in The Usual Suspects and also in Matchstick Men, you don't know that the con is happening until the reveal. I feel like in this movie, it only takes about 5 or 10 minutes. Like when you first meet Steve Martin, and he's so overly like swarthy, and it's like, okay, clearly this guy is clearly the con is on. So who's involved? Is it going to fall for it? Is it going to be successful? And the whole time you're just waiting for, like, you already know it's happening. You're watching it in real time. You're
Right.
just waiting to see it unfold. Whereas I feel like if they would have done it a little better, you wouldn't know until the very end. But it was so obvious when he's like, what was your childhood dog's name? And like, what was, and then when the other lady's like, what's your mom's maiden name? It's like, okay, all of these people are obviously in on it, and they're just trying to gather as much data about this guy as possible. And I mean, that first scene where he meets Steve Martin on the beach and he has to buy his camera for $1,000. That was the corniest fucking dialogue back and forth.
Yeah, his response was so weird and like robotic. He's like, "So what is this? A favor?" Like I was like, "What? No one talks like that."
If you're asking me for a favor, I would sooner rather just give you the camera, sir. And then when he comes to apologize,
as a gift.
Yeah, shitty dialogue. I did see one review where it was like, once again, Mamet's dialogue is gorgeous. I'm like, man, I must be really fucking dumb because it bugged the shit out of me. But
no, that person fucking credit cards his ass and smells it. That's fucking terrible.
Yeah, so I mean, if you don't know much about David Mamet, I know less than fuck all. But I did see that he wrote The Edge, which is legit.
He's as a writer, he's written some cool shit. As a director, I mean, there's a movie from 2001 with that's a proper heist movie with Delroy Lindo and Gene Hackman. That's a fun flick. The rest of his stuff I wasn't really familiar with. I know he's real big. He's known for State and Maine. I've heard that movie mentioned, but I just figured it was like a theater nerd kind of movie, which I think it is. But
that would make sense.
I do like he wrote Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah,
you ever seen that?
I haven't seen it.
That one's got a very theatrical speech, like dialogue style, but it's a completely different movie, and I feel like it fits. Like these people are salesmen in that movie, and like they're cutthroat. Yeah. Kevin Spacey's actually in that one, oddly enough. Coinky Dink. It's a completely different setting movie, what they're going for, but that's a really good one. He wrote Wag the Dog, which is a good movie. Yeah, he's written way more than he's directed. I guess a lot of people like Spartan with Val Kilmer. I don't know if I've seen that one. I think he plays like some kind of FBI agent or something in that one, but oh yeah, I didn't even see that. He wrote The Edge. That's crazy. He wrote Hoffa. Hoffa's okay with Jack Nicholson and Danny DeVito. Shit, The Untouchables. Okay,
he's got
now
some
we're talking.
Bona fides.
Yeah,
I mean,
you've never seen The Untouchables, have you?
No, of course not.
With Sean Connery, Kevin Costner, Andy Garcia. That's a banger. That's a good movie. That makes me like him actually a lot more right now. So, good for you. Good on you, David Mamet.
So this will come as no surprise to you at all, but the IMDb score was just right down the middle at 7.2, like everything else is.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked to see that. Honestly, I was like,
do you know the Rotten Tomato score?
No idea.
If you had to guess, what do you think the critics and the audience calls it?
I feel like this would be a critical darling, and I mean, fuck, it could be a coin flip. I'd go somewhere in the 80 range, critic, and then I'd go maybe 60s for audience.
Okay, you're not super far off. 89 with the critics, which I think is generous.
Yeah.
And 81 with the people, which also I think a little generous, but not super unreasonable. I didn't see that. And
yeah, it's not dog shit the way I'm portraying it, but yeah, I feel like those two scores are really high. I'd definitely be more in the 60 range on this. So like maybe a C minus. Maybe we'll give it a pass. I don't know. Because there were some certain things I liked about it, but
so I think the first indication that he should have known what's her name, Susan. That was her name, right? Susan?
Yeah. The annoying secretary.
It seemed so fucking obvious. And I don't know. I thought I was going to talk you into liking it. I might talk myself into hating it by the end of this. I thought the first, like, extremely obvious clue was when she makes her stupid little fucking scrapbook. And it's got the pictures in it from the camera that he sold to Steve Martin. Like the pictures of him with the girl in the background. Or am I...
No, I feel like that there was two cameras because she had a camera and he had a camera too, and he took a photo with his camera, and that's where Steve Martin
think that
saw
if he
it.
saw two people taking pictures of them, he would try to buy both cameras.
Yeah, but I think she had walked off first.
All right, maybe. All right, maybe I'll just calm down over here. But
well, one of my first ones that tipped me off, like. That was pretty shortly after that, is when they're on their return flight and she's like just badgering him on the fucking plane.
Yeah.
And then also saying like, well, you got to watch out about, drug mules. Like don't accept any packages or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, this is so on the nose. And he's in the moment. Joe's just like freaking out because it's like, wait, I did that. That's me. Like he's not sitting there to think like, this is kind of cool. A coinky dink, like she's being weird, and then she happens to talk about this, which like sets me down this path. I don't know. Maybe not as Joe, he shouldn't have been tipped off. Maybe, I mean, way earlier he should have, but for the audience, for sure. And the whole thing about how she kept being weird about like, was he on the seaplane or did he just come up on the boat? I was like, why are you being weird? And for Joe too, like if a guy came up and was like, hey, I'll give you $1,000 for that, like being all weird, my first instinct would be like, fuck off, no, like leave. Or I would be like, if I was like thinking really quickly on my feet, I would like to think if this fucker is willing to offer me $1,000 for this, I'd say no, 2,000.
I got him 10.
Yeah, like let's see how fucking serious you are, bucko. But that whole exchange, and then seeing him later on the tennis court, and like, yeah, my little sister's alternate for the Olympics. Like all that shit was just really cringy, and
that was another nominee for worst dialogue exchange back and forth.
At first I thought, is there some gay shit going on here? Like, is our guy Joe, like, is he like cruising for a piece of ass on Steve Martin or vice versa? I was like, this just feels weird. I don't know. Maybe it's me being an introvert. It's like I would have been like, this guy's giving me weird vibes. Go away. I'm trying to go to my hotel room and fucking take a shit and go to sleep and get out of here. The point too where right before he leaves, he's like, oh, hey, would you take this package for me? Fuck no. I don't even know you, guy. Like, but if he didn't, we wouldn't have a movie. So.
Yeah. And I mean, he had to know he was going to open it and read the note like, ooh, there might be a lady in this for me. But so to skip ahead before we skip back, Ed O'Neill, who
I liked his little entrance. That was cool.
So awesome. But as he's describing the scam, it's like, that's not at all what you're describing. Mm-hmm. It sounded more like, I don't know if you're a big Always Sunny fan. This sounded more like the Dennis system. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Oh, man. So Dennis is one of the characters in Always Sunny.
Yeah, I'm familiar with him, for sure.
So he's got a system for like getting women to fall in love with him, and he calls it the Dennis system. It's an acronym. And... oh man, I wish you were more familiar with it. So the steps for the Dennis system are demonstrate your value, engage physically, nurture dependence, neglect emotionally, inspire hope, and separate entirely. And I just kept thinking this is like a Dennis system. Like he shows the guy like, oh, I'm a rich guy. I've got this plane, here, I'm going to like give you my card or offer to meet you and buy you dinner. And then when the guy doesn't follow his instructions properly, he's like, fuck off. I don't want to be friends with you.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, I can help you with this attorney. And then, except for the separate entirely at the end. If anybody's a big Sonny fan, I feel like they'll really enjoy the dentist system analogy there. But
yeah, I was looking up online in some research for this, and it didn't really hit me that way until like later on, that I was like, that doesn't sound like what he was describing. And
no,
then,
that sounded like a Nigerian prince.
Right.
This just seemed like the long con.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck. There's so many twists and turns in this thing, and so like the part where he finally meets him in his like penthouse, and he's like swimming, and he casually sits down, and he's like, they're just chatting, and he brings up the idea or like Swiss bank accounts just offhanded, and then asks for like, what was your first dog's name? And he's like, oh, I just set you up a Swiss bank account. How cool is that? I'd be like, that's pretty weird, friend that I just met, that you did that for me. I mean, they kind of play it off like he's just like, well, I just put 15 Swiss francs in there. It's like a cool party trick. You can say you have a Swiss bank account, whatever. But I don't know.
It was so obvious, like, well, this is going to come back and be not very cool.
Yeah. Like, oh, why did you open this Swiss bank account?
Well, yeah. And
especially when like that.
When he takes him to dinner and he's like, has him sign it, it's like immediately you're like, well, this is going to be turned into something else.
Oh, yeah. When it's like, oh, it's members only night.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, make him a member right now. And it's like, wait, for this prestigious club and this fancy, like highfalutin, like restaurant, like private club or whatever, all it takes for me is to sign this piece of paper. No. It's like there's even like podunk golf country clubs where you have to pay like fucking $10,000 a year and maintain like a fucking $500 like tab at the fucking at the bar or whatever there. It's like, this wouldn't come no strings. It's like, that should have been finally the hugest red flag, Joe.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
I don't know if you're a big Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fan, but one of my favorite episodes, which I ended up using for my own benefit, was Will is trying to get Uncle Phil's signature for something. And he's like, oh, Uncle Phil, we're doing a handwriting analysis in my class at school. And he has everybody else in the family like sign this piece of paper. And he's like, you want to get in on it? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so he hands him the clipboard, and right when he's about to sign it, he like scooches the paper up. So he's signing like a permission slip or something right below. It's like, damn, that's a really good idea. So I did the same thing to my parents, and then just used that like master piece of paper to trace notes excusing myself out of school for.
That's awesome.
For a while, until I got caught, and wasn't that cool after that.
Oh man, what a good show.
So I thought the biggest like annoying, so it's this huge con, right, with all of these people involved, and it seemed like the first moment where he realized something was wrong was when he went to go deliver that framed picture to the sister, which he kept missing.
Yeah. Or she's sick. She couldn't make it to dinner. And
so he goes to deliver it, and it's an old lady. So that's when he kind of knows the ruse is going on. So for this whole consortium or whatever group of people, how hard would it have been for him to just have a fake sister?
Right? Like, just get a henchman or an actor lady, a stand-in. It's like, why would you chance it to be? Because the first time that he goes to drop off the book, they show that old lady come out, and he just misses her. So it's like, that would have blown up the whole con right there.
Well, and he was supposed to hand deliver it to her. So what was the goal there?
Yeah. Well, I think that part was like that fake anger. Like, I'm gonna play kind of hard to get right now. Like that was built in, like because he wasn't clear about like, no, I expect you to fucking go up to the door and meet my sister and hand it to her in person.
Yeah.
I definitely took it the way Joe did. Like, hey, will you make sure this gets to my sister?
Right.
Deliver it, whatever. Like
the first N in the dentist system, which is neglect emotionally. I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But the other thing too that I was wondering about throughout this whole thing, and they do touch on it a little bit, it's like this guy's so secretive about this process, this new thing that he's developed that's going to revolutionize and for his company is going to just reap, like, it's going to be a huge windfall, right? But he's being very precious about it. I don't know. I haven't worked a lot of places, but most places there's shit in like the bylaws or like, you know, like your code of conduct or whatever that, you know, something that you work on or create.
Yeah, your IP belongs to the company, not to you and your cute little key.
Right. Yeah, your 2-key system and your ledger that you hide in this painting. But he does say something about, I just didn't care enough at this point, but he's like, it was a work for hire contract or something. I'm wondering if it was something like separate from his normal duties. Like, we're going to contract you to do this thing separate from your job function at fucking Johnson & Johnson or wherever he works for, some global conglomerate. That part just seemed weird to me. Like how is he allowed to be so secretive about and hiding this thing? Shouldn't the company own it? But
I mean, unless he is a independent contractor, I don't know.
That they just have on retainer and he's not actually like an official employee of this company, but he had his own office on site and shit, and he was talking to his boss like, you know, that's my boss. He's like, oh, run it, give it to me on Monday or whatever. Like, it, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
it just didn't seem
that's
to
why they
jive.
tried to restructure his contract to make him an employee rather than like an independent contractor.
Right. When he bows up, he puts his big boy pants on. He's like, no, my attitude, sir. Like, all that shit. I was like, come on. You're a day late and a dollar short, guy.
I hate when things are like intentionally vague to be artistic, when they don't say what the process is or what like they just kept saying, oh, the process. Ooh, or when he like puts the dollar amount on the chalkboard and turns it around and they don't show it, they're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like a clunkier version of the Pulp Fiction, like gold
briefcase. Yep.
Yeah, which is fine. Like in that context, it's fine. But in this case, it's like it's just, it seems cheap. Like, the process, like just assign something to it. Like, oh, it's a new technology that we've developed or whatever. But
yeah, it's like a trope or like a cinematic technique. It's called they call that a MacGuffin. I think it comes from like Hitchcock, maybe predates that, but yeah, it's it's like an instrument that you can plug into a formula of like your movie or your show or whatever it is, and it's a thing that like has value that drives the story forward, but it could be anything. It could be it could turn out to be a fucking hot dog, you know, like, or, you know, it's just a kind of a red herring, but not really. Like, they call it a MacGuffin. I can't remember why. I think it's from a movie where there's like a dude named MacGuffin or something, but that's it. It has a distinct function within a movie and within a plot. Like, you can identify it like, oh, that's the MacGuffin. Another one is like a Chekhov's gun. I've seen that mentioned a lot. I don't know what the fuck that is, but yeah, I don't know. Something about this just, I didn't, like you say, it didn't feel organic. Like the relationships, like, of the people and like the way they interacted, it felt kind of fucking lame. I don't know.
So
can't articulate it beyond.
I did have some hope because I feel like when he replaced the book and he still had the original at home, I thought that would be.
I did too. I was like, come back to this.
Like, this is the ace in the hole that deviated from the con plan that could come back and be the thing that blew it all up, right?
Right.
I will say there was also a lot of like really anti-Japanese.
Yeah, there was. Even at the end, they're like, "Oh, no one pays attention to a Japanese tourist," you know.
It's like, yeah,
And that's actually what came
you've
back to
said
bite.
that multiple times, but you really just had to pound that home one more time.
Yeah, the heavy-handed nature of the movie telegraphing that shit, it was kind of rubbed me wrong too.
So another one where they just were like rubbing your fucking face in it is when she takes him down to Boston instead of New York to get on the plane, and the woman and child in front of him, like, you're dropping your book. You're gonna break your book. You broke
I was like,
you broke your book. I'm like, this has not occurred to you at all.
Yeah, like, oh shit, his fingerprints are on that book. It's
well, because there were so many discussions about like, if we only had his fingerprints on anything, do we have anything of his? And then the mom is like, your book, you dropped your book. You dropped your book over and over. I'm like, and he's like, oh.
Yeah, this could have been useful yesterday, like, or 2 days ago when you were like talking to the cops or whatever, like, and they were brazen you, like, oh, you know what? I do have his fingerprints. You know, it's like,
yeah,
come on, Sleepy Joe. Fucking
well, and then
guy.
when he runs out front and they show the gun going through the X-ray, and Susan is talking to the FBI or fake FBI people.
Mm-hmm.
Like least discreet conversation of all time happening across the street.
Yeah.
And then they just break and run back. And then the same thing happens like 10 minutes later at the boat launch.
Yeah.
Where she goes back and it's like, well, what should I do with this guy who knows who we are and who knows, oh, fuck, I'm going to have to go run back.
Yeah.
Good
that
movie,
felt really
though.
sloppy. And then like, how did Steve Martin know which ferry or which boat to be on? Because they tried to do that fucking gypsy switch and get on the other boat. It's like, oh, you knew he was going to do that?
Yeah.
Least penalized team in the SEC.
He's a ghost, and he writes to us. Ghostwriter.
Nice. Well, and also, I mean, I feel like when he is talking, and we are jumping all over the fucking place, which is fine.
Yeah.
I would recommend this movie, though. It's for free on Tubi or whatever. Watch it.
Yeah, it's a couple places. I think it's on Tubi, Freevee, and Peacock with ads.
So when he figures out that it's a scam, he still takes the fucking actual notebook with him. If we've learned nothing from The Big Lebowski, he should have brought a fucking ringer, dude.
The fucking whites. Yeah. So is he onto it that it's a scam when he's like, make sure you bring the process? Make sure you bring a copy of the process? That's another one that jumped out to me. I was like, he's never called it that before.
Right. Yes. That's also correct.
How do you know it's called that, motherfucker?
I mean, I think it's just the way of spoon feeding you info that, hey, in case you weren't already aware that Steve Martin is in on this.
Yeah.
The fact that he never told him it's called the process and he's asking for it is, red flag number 10,000. But then when he talks to the fake FBI people, they're like, do whatever he says, take it, whatever. It's like, no, I'm still not going to do that because this is my only copy. And I have no insurance because I'm also really dumb. You got to get the ringer.
Yeah. I kind of liked actually like hate watching the aspect of him, of Joe, like finding out like, oh, that was fake FBI. Fuck, like, and all these like pitfalls, and like seeing that or does he notice that the plane ticket was to Venezuela?
No,
he doesn't. Okay,
no.
Or when he's getting brazed by the hello real cops, when they're like, "Did you open a bank account, a Swiss bank account?" And he's like, "No, of course not." And then he's like, "Oh wait, he did that thing as a goof. Like, oh, that fucks me right now." And he's like, "And then, did you ever sign a extradition form or like a intent to fucking
Like a
go to
declaration
Venezuela?"
for
Yeah, whatever the fuck that was for citizenship. He's like, "No, of course not." He's like, "Wait, did I sign something that I have no idea what the fuck it was?" Oh yeah, they get into this rich club. It's
yeah.
super, yeah. And then they go and they to that restaurant later on, and it's just like some like shitty like dive like deli tavern
Yeah.
place. I was like, this did not look like that when he went there. I don't know. There's too many leaps in this one, and I don't know. I just didn't really give a fuck about any of the characters. I hated Joe almost immediately. I didn't even really care when George dies, when he has the knife through his gullet or whatever.
Yeah,
I
imagine
couldn't
you
latch on.
imagine you're being framed for all sorts of wild crimes and you find your friend dead. You're just gonna like cover your hands with blood.
Oh yeah, let me make sure I smudge it really well on my fucking glasses and
Yeah.
leave my glasses, which I seems like I need really bad, and like be like, oh, let me touch 18 more things before I leave. Like,
And then I'm
yeah, that
gonna
was fucking
creepily stare at a woman on the subway so she gets freaked out. And
yeah. I think that was to like highlight like his paranoia. Like he's like looking every single person he's looking at, they're in on it. Fuck, they know I'm high. But yeah, I don't know. But I couldn't tell like how much maybe he's willing to like. Well, maybe he's got a mild form of Aspies or something to begin with, because you see him jotting down like numbers and shit while they're in line, and he's like, "Come on, put that down." And he's like, "We don't know what this process is. Maybe he's some kind of like savant or something. He's not good at social cues and crap." But he's also, it seems like he's very fixated on getting a fucking payday, and he's really worried about getting fucked over by his company. So maybe he's just got dollar sign glasses on too, like of this forthcoming fucking cash out that. I don't know, that kind of hinders his critical thinking ability at points here, but
he's also just a big giant pussy. So I think everybody around him sees that.
Yeah, like he's an easy mark. The only time he bows up is that one when the lawyers come in and they talk about renegotiating the contract or whatever. He bows up a little bit there, but again, I think it was like he came in a day late, a dollar short. Because then he follows that later on. He's like, "Oh, hey, Mr. Klein," like as he's walking out the door, he's like, "I want to talk to you again about you bending me over for this thing that you."
Well, and so this is where I think I'm hoping to maybe bring you back a little bit. The fact that
good luck.
Spoiler, we find out that it wasn't Steve Martin, the really clumsy mastermind of this whole scam. It was his own boss, who we find out earlier has no money, has no savings. Everything he was banking on was on this process.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually really liked that kind of reveal, because it makes sense. Like, okay, well, I get why this guy would hire this whole crew of people, because he doesn't want to split a nondescript amount of money when he could just take it all for himself. And he kind of seemed like a scumbag early on.
Yeah. Yeah, he keeps dodging him and like, "Hey, we're down here on business. I'm here to have fun. Talk to me when we get back to New York." But then he wrings his hands too, like, "Oh, the stockholders meeting, they keep me in the dark too." He's like, "But there's going to be plenty to go around once this deal goes through." Like, he's clearly dodging this guy. Like,
yeah, but he did play it perfectly with Steve Martin telling him, like, they're going to fuck you. They're going to say all this good shit, and then they're going to start, and then he had his attorneys do exactly what he told him Steve Martin was going to do.
Right.
So, he played him back on both sides, back into Steve Martin's arms. And
yeah,
I thought that part
was
a little
problem. Yeah.
that
problem, reaction, solution kind of thing built in.
Yeah. So in hindsight, I thought that was pretty clever, but
yeah, I'll give you that. I did like. I wasn't expecting it. I thought it was like. I thought Steve Martin was like just this rogue operator who maybe got like some intel and like it was his scam. So I'll give you that as a point. Like I did like that it's like, oh, it was your boss the whole time, because his motive makes sense and like the links that he would go to play up Joe, but just all the things that happened to him, so many things would have had to go right or near perfect for the con to continue on. And I mean, ultimately it fails, but that kind of seemed a little cheap to me too. It's like, wait, so there's actually real cops and a real FBI that's been watching like everything ostensibly or a lot of shit, and they're privy to it. They're just like they're kind of like the Deus Ex Machina at the end of the movie. Like, oh, fucking trank dart this guy, save you. Like I wish Joe would have like died, or like I wish we would have seen his like complete downfall versus that we get like this kind of cookie cutter like quote unquote happy ending. Like
I was confused by the ending because they're like, get him to admit where he sent it or whatever, and he's like, oh, I sold it to the Swiss and blah blah blah. It's like, okay, well, it's not coming back. What part of that admission is a win? Like, I sold it to these people. Like, okay, it's still gone, so you're fucked.
Yeah. And I'm sure those people that have it are, you know, operated. They have like 12 different shell companies, and they're definitely in countries that have non-extradition. So, yeah.
There was also that moment where Susan was like, if you ever need anything, I am at this address. I'm going to clearly state it out to you. And
I live above a bakery, Sunrise Bakery.
We will definitely come back to this later. And then when he shows up, she gets on the phone and she's like, I am Susan. I'm calling in sick. Like, could that have been any more clearly a signal to somebody? Like,
yeah, dude,
the fox is in the hen house.
Yeah. Dude, one of her lines, she's like, hey, well, if you ever want to do something or come over for dinner over for dinner and breakfast. I was like, oh, damn. Yeah. Susan's trying to fucking get her beat. Yeah. She was like nails on a fucking chalkboard for me.
Yeah.
Especially the second time when I tried to watch the first half again to try to, because the first half was so hard to get through. Yeah, she's fucking terrible. Oh, one of my favorite lines of George's was the worry is like interest paid in advance on a debt that never comes due. I was like, I like that. That's pretty fucking slick. But then yeah, what are his other ones? Nobody going on a business trip would have been missed if he never arrived. Beware of all enterprises which require new clothes. That one I didn't get. Do you understand what that means?
No. Don't care. We're really fucking dumb.
Or when he's hungover, he's like, what? He's like, how'd your night go? And he's like, I put a thief in my mouth to steal my brain. It's like,
cool.
Fucking weirdo. Yeah, you just be like, I'm fucking shithoused. I'm hurting. Roll me a doobie and give me a fucking Gatorade. Yeah, I don't know. This was like not. It really that meme. I'm straight up not having a good time. Is how I felt. Just overall with this.
All right, can I help you feel better?
Sure.
Do you remember when Susan is driving him to the airport in New York, and there's the checkpoint?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Did you recognize the cop?
Oh yes, the fucking got your ass, Isaiah, whatever his name is. Yeah. Fuck yeah, I did see that, and I was like, yeah, my echolalia, my wife will tell you, I hit her with about 9 got your asses.
Well, he was about to.
Got your ass.
God, I love that guy.
Fuck.
Yeah, that was fun. And I, for as kind of cheap as that was, I did like her like diatribe going off on Irish people, disparaging the Irish. I think she calls him like a dumb Mick at a certain point. And like, I thought that was kind of fun, but that was like one of the few bright spots for me with her acting. But yeah, what is that dude's name? It's like Isaiah something. Yeah, that
Isaiah,
guy's
it's
awesome.
like, because I've looked it up like 10 times. Isaiah Whitlock Jr.
Yes.
Shit. God, I was so hoping I could surprise you with that. Fuck.
I mean, he is a fair bit younger, and he's a little bit more
the exact
svelte.
same.
Yeah, he's definitely got a distinctive mug on him. Yeah, there's some trivia. It's kind of boring. Yeah, the con game run in this movie is not the Spanish Prisoner. So I've heard some people were just like, I think he just liked the name of that con, and this is also like a heist kind of con movie, so he just threw it on there. And while I'm at it, I guess I'll explain what the Spanish Prisoner is, even though it doesn't relate to this film in any way except in title. Some of the shit that Susan Gal said too was like, "Well, dog my cats," and just like, what the? No one fucking talks like that, man. So annoying.
So let me ask you this. I meant to write this down, but when do you think they switched out the book? Do you think it's when he put it on the windowsill? Because I think it's when the like roller skater bumped into him in the park. You remember that?
I think this is one of the parts where I fucking browned out and I fucking didn't give a fuck.
You didn't miss much.
Yeah, I think this is one of those parts. I had kind of like an inverse bell curve on this movie. Like I was watching it actively and hating it like the first part, and then somewhere in the middle I fucking kind of just glazed over and sat and watched movements on the screen and words said, and then I was like, I gotta talk about this about 2/3 of the way through, and then fortunately that's where it kind of does pick up.
Yeah.
And all these things kind of start happening. It still wasn't enjoyable, but it was like, at least we're not, like looking in the rear view, I was like, fuck, I hope the rest of this movie's not like that. But yeah, fuck this movie. I didn't like it. Even talking about it now makes me not like it even more. You got any other final thoughts about the Spanish Prisoner?
No, I'm still a little unclear about the U.S. Marshals storyline at the end. Like, how did they get onto this? Why? What took them so long?
It felt fake. Like it was just like it was just plucked. Like, oh, okay, they've been omnipotent since when? Had known all the shit like was going on. How? Where? Do you have phones tapped? Like,
yeah, you let our buddy
just
get
felt a little
stabbed
cheap
in the chest for what? Like, you've been onto him for how long?
Yeah, you couldn't help my buddy not die at the hand with my fucking Boy Scout blade. Like, come on. Fucking assholes.
Are you sure you don't want anything to drink?
Take a quadruple Hennessy with the gin back. Sorry, sir.
That's what I felt like after watching this. I wanted a quadruple Hennessy with a gin back.
Just cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
All right, this is going to wrap it up for The Spanish Prisoner. Fuck that movie. Don't watch it.
I say watch it.
Steve's a little warmer on it.
Yeah.
It's weird because I am a Steve Martin fan in general, and there's a couple good flicks. Like I like Roxanne. I like My Blue Heaven. He's great in with Rick Moranis.
House
Planes,
Sitter?
Trains, and Automobiles.
House Sitter.
House Sitter. He's good in House Sitter. I'll give you
House Sitter.
I will give you House Sitter.
Father of the Bride, part 1 and 2.
The Jerk. Father of the Bride. I'll give you that too. I think there's a much better movie about a con or a confidence game. It's called Confidence from 2003 with Ed Burns, Dustin Hoffman, Rachel Weisz, Smoke Show, Annie Garcia, Paul Giamatti. I think that's a much funner con game, long con game.
Put it on our list. It sounds good.
All right.
I like all those people. I lost a $10 bet one time because I thought Ed Burns in Saving Private Ryan was Ben Affleck. So,
I mean, I can see they're kind of similar facial structure, especially when they got like a beard going. Yeah. Ed Burns isn't in a lot, but I definitely like him as Ryben a lot. He came up in like 95. He did like it was kind of similar to Affleck and Damon. They did him and his writing buddy. I can't remember. He's not as famous as he is, as Ed Burns is, but they did The Brothers McMullen in 1995. Pretty good flick. Kind of an indie thing, kind of like along the lines of Good Will Hunting, like similar the way that they came up and they were able to like write this movie and they got it made, and then from there they became like movie stars. Obviously not to the heights that Affleck and Damon have, but kind of similar. I think they're both East Coast guys too. But anyway, fuck. Next week, I think we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants here. There'll be another surprise. We got a few in the hopper that I'm looking forward to talking about, but I talked with Chris recently from Mount Molehill, and he's got a suggestion for a movie that I think we'll check out. The name of it escapes me, but it's like a 90s kind of thriller movie. So he might be back on sometime in February, and we might. For Valentine's Day, I think we're pretty set on So I Married an Axe Murderer, and we might have a special guest or guests on for that as well. So yeah, look forward to that. I think also when this releases the following day, so Friday the 19th, we were just on Ghoulish University's I don't know if it was their year-end wrap-up or it was meant to be, but they finally got to their point in Tales from the Crypt where they covered the first Tales from the Crypt movie, Demon Knight. So we were happy to sit in with them, and that was a lot of fun. That one went pretty long too, as per usual. Kind of just time just melts away. I think that one came in like 3 hours or so, but I had a lot of fun on Demon Knight.
Yeah.
So yeah, by the time this comes out, following day, I think they're going to release that one. So keep your eyes peeled. Out. Is it?
I think
no.
So.
I think she uploaded it and then, but she didn't mean to, and she took it back down. So if you've already downloaded it like to whatever podcatcher, and you have it like locally on your shit, even if someone takes it down, you'll still have that first copy. Unless you just stream podcasts. I know some people just stream them and they don't download them like individual episodes, but yeah, I found out that a hard way with one of our episodes. There was a fucking delay somehow kicked in between you and me, and I didn't pick up on it until someone told me, and it already had like 15 downloads or something. So I had to put like a little disclaimer like, hey, new versions up. Yeah, that was a pain in the ass to fucking untangle that ball of yarn and get the voices synced back up. Yikes. Fuck that. Yikes on bikes. That's when it probably pays to like these bigger outfits when they have like producers and shit and the people that actually produce a show. That's gotta be nice. All right. First world problems in the rear view. If you want to reach out to us via email, you can do so at waxingtheporpoise.com. Hate mail welcomed. We haven't had very many emails recently, but on YouTube we have had a couple new subscribers, and someone posted a really thoughtful response to Jennifer 8, which I was especially tickled by. So I can't remember that username, but if you're listening, I appreciate the comment. That's one of our lower downloaded episodes, but that's one of my like guilty pleasure, like kind of comfort food movies, and it always will be. So I was glad to see someone gave that a little bit of love. Also socials, Instagram, Twitter, just you'll figure it out. Last chance, final thoughts.
I recommend it. That's all.
All right. Well, we're going to mark it in the win column because Steve liked it, even though I didn't. And that's actually, we're back on a pretty solid fucking streak here. I think previous to this, we were at a 87.3 approval rate. And now, if we mark this a yes, this is going to put us squarely at an 87.5. So we're sitting at a solid B plus 84 episodes in. So I can live with that. But yeah, fuck the Spanish Prisoner. Garbage. Alrighty, well, if you made it through with us, you're a saint. Fuck this movie, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Oh, please.